Yes, guys, so welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for joining me. And as you'll see from the thumbnail, the video today is on my prep PED cycle. Now, it's really important for me that I get the tone of this video right, because I do not want to kind of glamorize PED use, but I also don't want to shy away from the fact that as a professional bodybuilder, it obviously plays a part in what I have done, what I did do, and my journey thus far. So just starting off, obviously, I'm not a medical professional, so everything you hear in this video is my personal experience. This is not any sort of advice in any shape or form, and please appreciate that this is me 14 years into my journey. So in terms of experience, I'm more than likely a long way ahead of you. Pull into account as well the fact that I am a professional bodybuilder. I just want to be honest. I don't know how many guys out there are perfectly honest. It doesn't really matter to me, but I've documented this prep in its entirety. I've documented my food, my training, my feelings, and I think it would be dishonest not to kind of touch upon this. This is going to be a one-off video covering what needs to be covered, and then from there on out it will be kind of back to business as normal. So yeah, that's the first part, and I do appreciate that this video will get reaction. Hopefully a lot of people will find the honesty and appreciate it, but I'm sure there will be plenty of people out there with very strong opinions, and by all means put them in the comments, but again, this is coming from a place of just wanting to do, I suppose, the right thing for you guys, the honest thing, and yeah, I won't really say any more. So as I mentioned, this is my personal use. This is the culmination of 14 years, and the cycle in itself, personally for me, is high. It's the highest amount of drugs I've ever used. It is a contributing factor into why I don't want to continue competitive bodybuilding, because I'm only going to have to repeat this or increase this moving forwards. And while my blood work to this point, as you'll have seen if you watch previous videos, and as I'll continue to document as I get it done, I'll put some links to those videos below. My blood work's always been in a good place, but at some point I'm well aware this will bite me in the arse. And as I said from the start, really, I want to get on my own terms with my health, and this is a contributing factor to it. So we'll get into it. I think that kind of covers everything. Yeah, this is my personal use. What others use, other pros use, I'm not sure. I'm sure some use more, I'm sure some use less, I'm sure some amateurs use more, but this is me, and this is what I did for prep. So the total cycle length was 20 weeks. So that was the start of prep and the start of increasing the PED use through till the France show, which was now a couple of weeks ago. Time flies. Everything I'm going to talk about today in detail is the peak dose, so the most I used, because when I started the cycle, I tapered up as I went through. I didn't go straight in at the total that I finished at. And as a reference point, just so you guys know, before the cycle, I was cruising on 700 milligrams total anabolics, which again, for me, I deem as a pretty high cruise. And I then started the cycle at 2.2 grams. I don't actually know the total that I finished on, including orals, but injectables was 3.2. So yeah, obviously a sizable amount of gear. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. So I'm going to break it down into injectables, orals, fat loss aids, and then ancillaries, just so you are getting a clear picture. We will put them up on the screen somewhere. Again, just so alongside me talking about them, you can kind of see the dosages. Now, again, this is personal use. I'm not really going to go into justifying anything or talking anything through in particular detail. But please, if you've got questions about why I've used a certain drug or why I've put it there, etc., hit the comments, ask your questions. I'm more than happy to go through things there. and yeah, help anyone out within, you know, reason. Again, not advice, not a medical professional. Okay then, injectables. So I, from previous use, and like my experience within PEDs, know that the three main ones I use pretty much all the time, you know, not all the time, but like in all cycles, off season and prep, are testosterone enanthate, masteron enanthate, and tren enanthate. I get on well with those. I don't see any negative side effects from a feeling standpoint. Obviously, some people don't get on with tren because of like anxiety, sleep issues. I don't. I've always gone well with it. And I feel good on it, and I train well on it, and it helps kind of uphold performance through prep. So the dosages of those at peak dose, I was using 1,000 milligrams of testosterone enanthate a week. I was using 1,400 milligrams of masteron enanthate a week. And I was using 800 milligrams of tren enanthate a week. So I know some of you straight away will shit the bed because that is a lot of tren. I am 300 pounds. I do get on well with tren. That's about as much justifying as I'm going to go. Do I need to use that much? It's the age old of at what point, you know, is too much. And again, this is where the trap of continuing to compete brings in higher dosages. You know, it's taken me 14 years to get to this point. Orals, I used, again, this is peak dose, 100 milligrams of Proviron a day. Now that was tapered up from 25 milligrams to 50 to 75 to 100. 50 milligrams of Winstrol a day, but that was only for the final 6 weeks of prep. So pretty much 2 weeks prior to my first show, that was introduced. 40 milligrams of Superdrol a day. That was only for the final 4 weeks of prep. And so again, that was like a week prior to the first show that I did. And 0.5 milligrams of Arimidex, which I took 3 times a week, again, only for the final 4 weeks. So aside from the Proviron, the orals were very much situational to create the desired look. Winstrol, that nice kind of hard grainy look. Superdrol for me adds to my fullness, which as a tall guy has its benefits. Fat loss aids, again, these are all tapered up. Clenbuterol, 160 micrograms was my peak dose, taken every morning first thing on waking. That was tapered up for 40 micrograms. The 160 I only needed to use for 2 weeks because at that point I then felt ready. And from there I actually started to taper it down so that when I actually hit my shows, I think I was running 80 micrograms there. T3, finishing on 25 micrograms first thing on the morning on waking and 12.5 micrograms in the PM. So that's about 12 hours after the first morning dose. And again, that was tapered up from a very low 12.5 micrograms when I introduced that. T4, 100 micrograms first thing every morning on waking, 50 micrograms in the PM, again around 12 hours later. And again, that was tapered up from 50 micrograms when I introduced that. Oh, actually, I didn't introduce that. I run that because of the growth hormone I use year round at 50 micrograms. Then injectable L-carnitine, I ran that at 1,000 milligrams first thing in the morning on waking, and then 300 milligrams pre-workout. And that was in pretty much consistently throughout. The pre-workout dose came in a few weeks into prep, if my memory serves me correctly. Ancillaries, so this is your growth hormone, your insulin, etc. 5-IU growth hormone every morning first thing, 5-IU growth hormone pre-bed. So 10-IU a day. That was tapered up from 5-IU, 2.5 AM, 2.5 PM. And that was something that I wanted to try. I've never pushed to 10-IU before, mainly down to, you know, if I'm honest, kind of cost and trying to justify it. But that was something I wanted to push this prep to see the impact it had on fat loss and also maintaining and retaining muscle tissue and fullness. And I do think it played a positive role, but it's not something I'm continuing to do. I'm straight back down at 5-IU, and in the future I'll probably just drop to maybe even kind of 2.5, 3-IU. Insulin, so Lantus. When I started prep, there may have been some Novorapid, but at a certain point when food gets kind of low, body fat gets low, its insulin sensitivity is high. I personally don't see the need for it. So Lantus I did still use a low 10-IU dose before meal 1 every day, and that was tapered down from 20-IU kind of in the off season. Metformin, 500 milligrams with my last meal every single day. Again, aside from the kind of blood glucose management benefits there, metformin does have a lot of health benefits for bodybuilders. John Jewett's done a fantastic post on that in the past. So yeah, that is something that I think from a health perspective is quite a good one. And then I also use telmisartan, again, blood pressure management, and there are other health benefits in there as well. And also potential kind of benefits with regards to managing water and how you look on prep. And that was run at 80 milligrams a day. So that it's a fair old list. You know, there's a lot of injecting, there's a lot of organising, there's a lot of thought. I am very organised. I set alarms for things. It's annoying as fuck for a vet, but you do what you do. And like with everything, I don't miss a beat. I didn't miss a beat all prep. That was very much, you know, how I operate and how I run things. So that is that. That is my personal use, sharing with you as a whatever you deem it useful for, an interest point, a point of reference of what a professional bodybuilder use. Just please, 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 if you're watching this and you are a newer gym goer, do not think you need to go, oh, that's what Josh takes, I'm going to take that straight away. Because, again, so anyone who is interested knows, my first cycle was 250 milligrams a week of testosterone enanthate back in 2010. And obviously since then, I have tapered dosages up, as you'd expect. And all things considered, over 14 years, 3.2 grams of injectables, not unreasonable. Certainly not advisable, certainly not healthy in the long run, but there we go. What else did I want to mention? Maybe. Yeah, so obviously I touched upon blood work. I haven't done blood work post-prep now, only 2 weeks in. But that will be done, and I will, of course, share that on the channel. And then moving forwards, I will, you know, I am still using PDs. I'm not, you know, stopping that. You know, realistically, I'll probably have to run a low level of testosterone for the rest of my life if I want to feel semi-normal. But, you know, in the time being, I still want to feel good. I still want to look good. So the way I'm approaching PDs is I'm tapering them down rather than kind of dropping straight to a cruise. So obviously, orals are all out, excluding Proviron. Fat loss agents are being tapered down, and injectables are just testosterone and masteron for the time being at lower dosages that I'll continue to taper down till I find a point basically where blood work is consistently good and I can run that pretty much ongoing. You know, that's the idea in my head. At this point, you know, it's a kind of trial and error thing, because historically, obviously, I've just dropped to a cruise, got blood work done, got the green light, pushed on with the cycle, rinse, repeat. And yeah, that's the way I've done things. Whereas now there will be no more cycles, there will be no more heavy use, there'll be no more extremes, and it's just going to be, you know, trial and error to a certain degree there. Yes, I think that's everything. So like I said, I will document what I'm using periodically in the future. More than happy to answer any of your questions below. I hope the transparency and honesty is appreciated. And if it isn't, and I've upset anyone, I can only apologise. And I will again, just to cover my back, say I am not a doctor, I'm not a medical professional, this is not advice, this is just my personal experience and use. Thank you for watching. Hopefully it was useful to some degree, and I'll see you in the next video.